Reading with your kids.
Hola, ni hao, konnichiwa, assalamu alaikum, shalom, mahaba, moni moli wanji, namaste, jambo, bienvenidos. Hi, my name is Jadley, and this is the Reading with Your Kids podcast. We are coming to you from the beautiful neighborhood of Reedville in the southwest corner of Boston, Massachusetts. We're so delighted and so very honored that you are joining us on our mission to help families grow closer through reading. Please be sure to subscribe to the show in the iHeartRadio app, on Spotify, Amazon Music, Good Pods, Apple Podcasts, wherever you find your podcast. Our guest today is Dawn Goldworm. She is here to celebrate the world's first scented children's book. It's called The Smell of a Rainbow. Hey, Dawn, how are you?
Hi, thank you for having me. I'm well, thank you. How are you?
I'm great. So this is a situation where if somebody came up to you and said, hey, I think you just wrote a really smelly book, you would not be insulted.
You know, people often tell me that I'm a little bit smelly. And no, I'm never insulted because it always has something to do with smell in my life, which is a great thing.
So tell me all about The Smell of a Rainbow.
So The Smell of a Rainbow came about because I am an in-house nose. I was for Avon at the beginning of my career and then for Coty, which is a very large fragrance manufacturer in New York and in Paris. And then my twin sister and I, my co-founder, started a company called 1229. And we work with brands to help them create emotional engagement with their guests or their client or their consumers. And we do this for brands all over the world. And as we started doing this and having more and more attraction, helping people create kind of these emotional, tangible communities around scent, we thought, well, where does this all come from? And all of my research, well, almost all of it, is based on children because our olfactive preferences are formed when we are children, which means what we like and what we don't like based on scent all happens in childhood. The problem with that is that as it's happening, our part of the brain that speaks, which we're learning to speak at the same time, is not connected to any of these experiences. So no one has the ability to talk about the types of smells they like and they don't like. And so we said, well, we could potentially change this. So why not create an educational tool or platform for children where they can start learning how to talk about smell? And so that was the beginning, the origin of how we started the book.
Wow. You know, we had another scent expert on not too long ago, Alexis Weintraub, and we had a great conversation. I'm really looking forward to this conversation with you, but I've never heard the term in-house nose. Is that something you study for? Do you go to college and get a degree in nosology or something?
Oh, absolutely. I went to perfumery school for 8 years. You have to study chemistry beforehand so you understand because, perfumery is a balance between science and art or chemistry and creativity, as we say. And so you have to understand chemistry. And then I worked with R&D in the lab. My boss was a chemist for 5 years. And then you go to perfumery school to train your nose. First, you learn how to build a bridge between the side of your brain that speaks and the side of your brain that smells, because like I said, there's no connection. And you learn this whole vocabulary that's just the vocabulary of perfumery and identifying raw materials, creating small formulas, et cetera, et cetera. It's very, very long and cohesive and fascinating. And it's a real craftsmanship, as they say. It's not something you can just kind of pop into. And there's about, 500 of us in the world of noses. And there's creative perfumers and technical perfumers and fragrance directors and evaluators. It's a very specialized kind of small little group that we have.
This really is fascinating. Can we talk a little bit? There's so much I want to talk about, but this is the first time I'm hearing about this bridge between the part of your brain that speaks and the part of your brain that smells, I guess, is what you were saying.
Exactly. So the limbic system, which houses three things primarily: our sense of smell, our ability to feel, and our capacity to remember. Those three things happen in the same part of the brain. which is fascinating. So what happens is, before you're born, your sense of smell is fully developed. As a baby, still inside of your mother, in about the 3rd trimester, you can actually smell what your mother's eating, because scent is the only thing that passes through the amniotic fluid. So as your mother is eating, you smell everything she eats, and this is the beginning of your taste preferences for the rest of your life. And then once you're born, your whole world is smell. The only things, sensibilities you can say, that a newborn baby has is their ability to smell and their ability to feel. The rest of your senses haven't really developed yet. You know, babies only see in black and white, and they can't see distance. Their sense of hearing isn't as fine-tuned as ours, which is why they scream and they have such a pitch in their voice. Their skin isn't as sensitive to the surface to touch, and their sense of taste is not developed. They have very primary sense of taste. But their sense of smell is full, as is their ability to have feelings about it. And so what happens is, as you're a child and you're smelling different things, you have different feelings about it. And then you store those in your memory. For instance, your mother is holding you. You smell her breast milk, maybe she's wearing perfume. You feel safe, you feel loved. Smell, emotion, stored in memory. You're running on the beach, maybe a year and a half later. You smell the sand, you smell the water, maybe sunblock if you have responsible parents. You feel free, you're having fun. Smell, emotion, stored in your memory. And so your olfactive memory, your smell memory, becomes the largest and most acute part of your memory. But you have no ability to talk about it. Because as this part of your brain is developing, your olfactive memory is getting larger and larger, your ability to talk about it is a totally different part of your brain. But what I found through my research over the years of doing my job was that there's no language per se, but color actually is also translated between this part of the brain, which is why when we see a painting, we have emotional response to it. When we see color, we automatically know that we like it, and we can talk about the color. Maybe not the feeling, but definitely the color. So I thought, if color bridges these two parts of the brain, maybe there's some kind of universal language with color, emotion, and smell. And it turns out there is. And so we've done research globally to understand that about 97% of people all smell the same colors.
This is kind of mind-blowing. And I actually I've joked a number of times on this podcast and others in speaking with art experts or illustrators, and I joked about that painting that you'll go into in one of the contemporary museums that's just a canvas of blue. And, I just don't get it. Why? Now, suddenly, as you're talking about the memories and the smells and the feeling safe and the colors are still in there, is that it? Someone walks into a museum and sees this big thing of blue, and it's, I remember when my mom wore blue and she helped me and it made me feel safe.
No, it's because it doesn't happen in the rational part of your brain. So you can't actually do that. What you can do, though, is imagine, it's not about abstract art, because abstract art is a little bit beyond most people's emotional response to art. But if you look at Monet, for instance, everyone that sees Monet, they think, you kind of have this feeling of peace. You have this feeling of softness because of the pastels and the way he uses color that drips into it. And it looks like kind of the perfect day, the perfect scene. You feel cool, you feel soft. Everyone gets quiet in a museum if there's Monet on the wall. And so you have this it's called the Stendhal experience if it's a dramatic experience, but this natural appreciation and response to color. Now, having said that, when we look at color, we're not looking at the emotional response you're having to color. We're looking at the emotional response you're having to smell. And so everyone has kind of these basic emotional responses to smell that gets translated into the language of color. And so what we do is we give people color charts or crayons, depending on if it's an interactive session together, and we'll give you a smell, let's say a raw material like the smell of lemon is a very easy one. And we'll give you the smell of lemon. And everyone looks down at their paper or looks up at their color chart. They either pick up yellow crayon or they point at yellow. Automatically happens with about 97% of the world. It seems easy because lemons are yellow, so lemon smells yellow. Mm-hmm. Then you get something a little bit, let's say, more complex. Like if you have the smell of freshly cut grass. If people actually realize it's the smell of grass, which not everyone does, they will pick up green. But a lot of people don't right away. And so they still pick up green. The smell of different fruit notes, the smell of different wood notes, literally any smell in the world, everyone will draw the same picture and pick up the same color.
That's wild.
And has nothing to do with culture, generation, living environment, experience, nothing.
This is, I am just so blown away. When you said earlier on that that a baby can smell what a mom eats while the baby is inside the mom, the first thing I think of is how do you figure that out? It's not like you can call up and go, yo, baby, what are you smelling?
Well, somehow they wanted to see if anything passes through the amniotic fluid. I don't know, but I imagine that they kind of fell upon that kind of information because you want to see how protected is the baby is inside of the mother. And if something's going wrong with the mother, is it going to affect the baby like this? And what they found is that smell is what passes through the amniotic fluid, which is super fascinating. And smell passes through taste. So another fun fact that most people don't know, 85% of what you're putting in your mouth, you're smelling. You're not tasting. Only 15% of what you're tasting happens on your tongue. The rest happens through the background up into your nose.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is something I was aware of. So how can a family, we always sit down and ask authors, what kind of conversations families can have with their kids as they're reading a book. The Smell of a Rainbow is absolutely a book where families should be talking about and not just reading. So tell us what you imagine a family will be talking about as they're reading The Smell of a Rainbow.
Well, what's amazing about this book is it is a children's book. It's starting to educate children young on how they can talk about smell and how they can talk about their feelings associated with smell through color. But it's also a platform for adults because even though you're an adult and you're 20, 30, 40 plus years later, you still don't know how to talk about emotion, smell, and color together. And so it's the parent and the child are learning together how to do this. And so what I'm finding is that the children are fascinated by the book. It makes them so happy. They're giggling, they're smelling, they naturally know how to do it. And the parents are doing the same thing, separately and together. And they're picking out their favorite colors together, and then they're re-smelling it and trying to figure out what they smell. And it's an educational experience for both. And it's very much a connective experience because it is so emotional. And it allows you to give you the emotional words. And so at the end, when it says, how do you feel? Most of the kids say they feel happy. And the adult says, well, actually, I do too. Because everyone's smiling the whole time they read the book because it's just pure joy.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Now, was it your idea to add the scent to the book? And I'm wondering if you have any idea of how that process works.
Yeah, sure. So it's the first scented children's book. It's not an easy process. Years ago when I was a child, they had like little scratch and sniff books. And it was a very, it's an old technology, an older technology now. Something that we still use in the perfume industry, actually, to sample fragrances, let's say in magazines and things like that. But I wanted the book to be able to be smelled without any activation. I wanted you to be able to open the page, and if you watch children smell it, they don't touch the page. They don't have to. Because as you open the page, the scent is exposed. The reason for that is there's a laydown of scent capsules on every left-hand page. And so every time you flip a page, it breaks some of the capsules and you can automatically smell it. Now, for adults that have a less sensitive sense of smell, they can rub the page or they can scratch the page and get an even and more intense experience, but the kids don't have to do that. And as you use the book more and more and turn more and more of the pages, more of the capsules break, so the scent just gets stronger and stronger. And it's the first time it's ever been done like this. It took a lot of testing, and it was only because the technology is available today and we use it in other forms for other projects that I knew that we could figure it out how to do it for a children's book.
Yeah. So I guess this wasn't a case that you pitched the publisher the story idea and they said, "Oh, we have this great technology." It sounds like you were very much a part of putting the idea of the technology into the publisher's mind.
Oh, absolutely. When I came with the idea, I said I knew exactly what type of technology we can do with this, and it's all about timing. If this technology wasn't available a few years ago, this book would be a very different book. You'd have to teach people children how to interact with it. You'd have to teach them how to touch it. And I didn't want that to be part of the learning experience. I didn't want that to take away from the smelling and the talking about your emotions and looking at the colors. And so it was very important that you didn't have to necessarily interact with the book at all. You could just have the book be an experience in itself. We came with, all of my research on color and smell and how it fits together, the technology with it. And then we just had to figure out really what the topic was going to be. And it was Random House, the president of Random House Kids, that was like, we should do the smell of a rainbow. You have all of this research on color. Kids love rainbows. Like, let's do that. And we said, yeah, that's perfect. And that's when the book was born.
That's wild. That's wild. Well, it's raining here in Boston at the moment as we're speaking, and I need to go out in a little bit. I am hoping that I'm going to be able to smell the rainbow that I hope is going to be over the city and not smell what we usually smell in the city. This is going to sound like a crazy thought, but I'm always looking for, unique ways, ideas that we can share with families that can help them grow closer with their kids, to help bring more love and harmony into their homes. I know as an in-house nose, you worked with corporations, with retail stores, helping them find that scent that can, maybe put the customers in a more, a pleasant mood or more in the mood to buy. Is there a way for family, mom and dad says, there's a lot of tension. We've been cooped up. We've been, pandemic locked down for so long, and tensions are high here in the house. Is there something I can do that puts a smell in the house that can help us all kind of chill out and grow closer?
Yeah. So, as being someone who's entirely led by her nose, when I'm feeling that way, there's a few little tricks that I do. And I've talked about this a lot during the pandemic. The first thing you should do is throw out all of your cleaning supplies that you've been using for a year and a half. Throw them away. Throw away your laundry detergent. Throw away any surface cleaners, your floor cleaners. Throw all of it away and buy new ones with new scents. It will change your house immediately. Especially laundry detergent. It's such a pervasive smell when laundry is happening and when you put the clothes on. Change your laundry detergent. Stop using Clorox if you've been using it. Use a different cleaning agent. Change all of those smells. Those are the smells that help create the overall environment in your home and your emotional connection to it. Change it out. You'll feel like you live in a new home. That's the first thing to do. The second thing is cook. Cooking, especially baking, all of those smells. The smell of vanilla is a smell that almost everyone in the world loves, feels safe and comfortable with. And that's because there's a naturally occurring chemical in breast milk that's mimicked in formula, if kids can't breastfeed, that smells and tastes like vanilla. And so everyone in the world likes vanilla for that reason, and it makes them feel calm and safe. Baking is a great way to bring the family together. It makes everyone feel happy and lighter and comfortable. So cooking, baking, citrus notes make everyone feel brighter. So if you have access to good fruits or citrus, putting out a little bit of basil or mint so people can smell it, they naturally feel cleaner. You have so many tools at your disposal within your home. Use them and talk about them with your kids. So if you're cooking, do it with your kids. Bake with your kids. Let them mix. Let them smell the basil. Say, what do you smell? What color do you smell? Let them smell the lemon. The same thing with the vanilla. And really, the first thing is really important, and it'll change your house automatically. Just get rid of all the present smells. And that means your candles too, and maybe even your perfume. Mm-hmm. Change everything. You'll feel like you moved into a new home.
This is really fascinating. Wow. So I just want to take this a little bit further, and stop me when I start getting crazy. But, if smell can put us in this, change our mood and make us want to buy more things or make us feel more open to buy things, is there a smell that we can use to help our kids get ready for their homework? Or is there a certain smell that we should kind of try to have in the house when we're reading to our kids that will help them, just fall in love with reading more?
Well, so there have been studies, and it's not my research, so I can't say if it works or it doesn't, that says that peppermint creates the feeling of more alertness for studying. I don't know if that's necessarily true. It's not it's not my research, and I haven't done secondary research to support it. However, the thing about smell is that it forms as an experience. So if you have a smell present and the child is having a good experience learning, a good experience reading, a good experience with math, with spelling, with, whatever they're doing, that smell becomes linked to that experience. If they're feeling confident while they're having that experience, if they're feeling positive, if they're feeling joy while they're learning, and there's a smell present, if you re-engage with that smell, if you bring it back into the space again, they will automatically feel confident and positive and joy again before they start learning again. That's how we work with brands. It's not about getting people to buy more things. Mm-hmm. We work with the brand because brands already have a set emotion that they want people to feel when they walk into a space. If it's a luxury store, they want people to feel elegant. If it's a, luxury hotel, they want people to feel sophisticated and comfortable. They already know how they want the people to feel, so we just help them connect that with smell. And so immediately when they walk through the door, once they smell the scent, they already have that emotional trigger. So no matter what happens, their primary sense has already been triggered in a certain way, and they already have that emotion flowing through them. And you can do the same thing with kids. So let's say you're sitting down and having a really good moment with your child. It's very happy, and there's a smell present. Remember that smell as a parent and introduce it again the next time you want to have a positive experience with them.
Wow. Now, I love this. I'm imagining there's somebody out there thinking, a hotel's using smells to trigger my emotions, and that's not fair, but it's the reality, so deal with it. But,
the whole world is using smell.
Yes. And
it's
so
already there.
and my thought is we should thank all those corporations that have been funding the research, because now it's time for us to take this and to use it to help bring more joy and love and closeness in our families.
And so the company that this book is created under is called Scent for Good. And it's another company we have that does exactly that. The whole point of Scent for Good is to bring joy to experiences, mostly experiences rooted in a care environment. So we work with hospitals and places of care to transform that experience from one of anxiety and fear to one of potentially positivity and healing. It's all about how scent can make our life a better and easier and more positive experience.
Yeah.
It's all about using scent for good.
Scents are all around us. I guess it's why my wife is repulsed every time I come back home from the gym. And I know that, I know my clothes at the end of the gym, they're gross, but that smell doesn't repel me because it must just be reminding me of all the fun and joy that I had playing high school and college athletics.
It's because the emotion that you are triggered by after working out, when your endorphins are going and you've triggered the part of your brain that makes you feel alive and strong and positive, and then it brings you back to childhood on top of that, where you were like winning the game, you were with a group of friends, you were all in it together as a team. All of that is happening to you when you work out, which is why people continue to work out as adults. If they can trigger that, that's an amazing moment. For your wife, it's that you are sweating. So your sweat actually doesn't smell. Sweat in itself doesn't have an odor. It's that you have bacteria on the surface of your skin. So your sweat mixes with the bacteria. It creates a new smell. That's what and with some types, sports fabric has its own smell as well. So all together, it creates a smell that makes her feel uncomfortable. So she wants you to take a shower. But for you, that's a great smell. And that's a wonderful thing. And that's a smell that kids are going to start to have at a very young age. And it's positive for them as well. The gross smell of football helmets, the smell of your hands after you played basketball, the smell of a soccer cleat in dirt. Like all of those smells are amazing for kids, no matter if they're mixed with sweat and dirt and even pollution or off gases from the plastic. Like those smells are smells of community and team and positivity and strength and joy and all the things we want to continue to have as adults. So triggering that, I just think, it makes life a more pleasant experience as we understand the harshness of, the world. And it still keeps us, in a sense of wonder and joy as we were when we were children.
Wow. This is really fascinating. I don't know, Dawn, if you've ever attended a high school wrestling meet, but that is a very unique set.
I have, and it is. I've had to smell a variety of different people and experiences for my job, recreating smells for some of these brands. And I created the anti-perspirant and deodorant for Adidas for about 10 years. And so I've smelled a lot of sweat and a lot of sport experience, and a lot of hospital experiences, and all of the experiences that most people associate with negative smells and negative emotions. I've smelled all of them. And the point of me smelling them is because those smells in isolation might be bad, but those are human smells. Those are the smells that make us connect. Those are the smells that are important. And so we have to use those smells with these more, let's say, artificial smells or smells that come from other parts of nature that aren't associated with the human experience from our bodies, like the beautiful smell of flowers or the wonderful smell of, citrus or fruit notes. Those are great, but they also have to have a human component to them to bridge that connection. And so all these bad smells, yes, in isolation, they're negative and they're bad, but when you put them together with these kind of more aspirational smells, together we can really create some kind of connection, and really have an emotional response to what we're smelling.
Wow. That's why I have such an emotional response anytime someone says, pull my finger. Reminds me of my dad.
Actually, Uranus smells like that. It does. It smells like sulfur. And so there's a great book for kids that says, what does Uranus smell like? And it smells like farts. It smells like rotten eggs.
Well, I think we better leave this alone because I think I'm going to get myself in trouble. Hey, Dawn, where can people... This really is fascinating. And I think that there's a lot of potential here for families, and I really want to encourage families. The Smell of a Rainbow, it's a beautiful book. It smells beautiful, but I'll be honest, when it first came to the house, it was like, oh, it's this cute little children's book. But there's a lot more here, and I really want to encourage families to obviously check out the book, but do a deep dive. Find out how we can use the science of smells to help bring more joy and love into our homes. Your realtor is going to do it when they go to sell your home. They're going to put the baked cookies out there to make people feel more like home. Let's make it feel more like home now before you start selling it. So, Dawn, tell everybody where they can go to find out more about the book, to find out more about Scent for Good, and find out more about you.
So Scent for Good has a website. It's www.scentforgood.com, and you can learn all about what Scent for Good does, how we do it, and who we do it for, and bring more joy to the world through scent. The book is sold on all major booksellers. You can get it on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Target, Walmart, or hopefully your local bookstore. We're also gifting as many books as possible. So if you have a local hospital, children's hospital, or a local school that you'd like to gift to, please contact us at Scent for Good, and we're happy to donate as many books as possible. Scent for Good is not only about bringing good to the world through scent, but also by bringing joy to experiences and access to joy for people that might not have it. And that includes schools, communities, organizations, anywhere that you feel can benefit from this book or our services. We donate that to them and try to find a way to work with them and children and adults to have a more profound and beautiful experience through scent.
Well, that's really beautiful. Silly question before we say goodbye. How close are we to having a fragrance-filled internet?
So I think it was 10 years ago, I meditate every morning, and I was meditating, and I finished meditating, and I picked up my phone, and a friend of mine who's a perfumer had sent me an email saying, Google's finally done it. You can now smell the internet. You can have digital experiences be scented. And I tried to you could download different ingredients on your phone. So I'm trying to download these experiences, and I'm smelling my phone and nothing's happening. And so I run to my computer and I do the same thing. And, at the time, my sister and I were still living together. This was before she was married. And she said, Dawn, what are you doing? And I said, I don't know. It's not working. It's not working. And so I scroll down. It says, maybe you don't have the most up-to-date software. Maybe you don't have the plugin. Or maybe this is just April Fool's.
We've had...
So we are not there yet. There are scented cell phones that Japan has created, which are really cool. There's scented alarm clocks. There's lots of technology that allows us to do this beautiful book, as well as a variety of other applications for scent, but we have not figured out how to scent the internet yet. And maybe that's okay, because smell is such a precious experience. Maybe it should stay separate from the World Wide Web.
There you go. Hey, we've had a great time speaking to the author of The Smell of a Rainbow, Dawn Goldworm. Hey, Dawn, thank you so very much for...
Thank you so much. This was wonderful.
Please be sure to join us for the next episode of the Reading with Your Kids podcast. We have a great guest, Christina Tosi, the founder of Milk Bar and one of the judges on MasterChef and MasterChef Junior. She's here to celebrate her brand new debut children's picture book. It's called Every Cake Has a Story. It's going to be a delicious episode of the podcast. Right now, I'd like to thank the people who made today's show so wonderful. Let's start by thanking our guest, Dawn Goldworm. Please be sure to check out The Smell of a Rainbow, the first scented children's book. It's really, really cool. You really can smell it. Also want to thank my team, Alejandra Doherty, Fatima Khan. I want to thank Michael Murphy and Rory Grady, my excellent, excellent interns. I want to thank my beautiful wife for all the support she gives me. Most of all, we want to thank you. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. And as always, thank you so very much for taking the time to make the world a better place by reading with your kids. I'll be looking for you in the next edition of the Reading with Your Kids podcast.